Our expert spokesman in Justice and Home Affairs. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Diane James.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Well, after that barnstorming speech from Jonathan, how do I follow? Well, I'm going to be giving you some messages on justice and home affairs. I'm going to be exposing what's gone wrong in the European Union, the cover-up that's underway by David Cameron and Theresa May to keep all of this from the public eye, and just expose for you, so you can take that message out to your friends, your families, into your social circle, why justice and home affairs, crime control, policing, prisons control, justice, court system, it's got to be sovereign UK control, not European Union control. Now, everybody, you and I, we know we face complex problems in our lives. We see it on a day-to-day basis. There are things happening out there, and we question why are they happening. And they take up lots of our time, our attention, and our resources. But the ones that are most likely to take up our time and our attention span is something to do with crime. It's something where we feel we're being treated unfairly. It's something that happens to us on a daily or a weekly or a monthly basis, and we're thinking, how in the hell is that allowed to happen? Who actually said this should be allowed to happen in the United Kingdom? Well, interestingly enough, Theresa May, she's forever taking a stance of being very much the Iron Lady. Maybe she thinks she's following somebody's footsteps. I don't know. But quite frankly, it's all posturing from her. Absolute posturing. And for me, my message, as ever, to Theresa May, you still haven't got it, lady. You still don't cut it. And she fails. She fails because she fails on some simple but very important things. Now remember, she's the lady that called the Conservative Party the nasty party. She's the one that's pointed that finger internally as to what's wrong about the Tory approach in terms of its dealing with people like you and I. Now, in absolute contrast, UKIP has stood up for the everyman individual on the street, the ordinary person, if you like, that we want to talk about. And we're the people that have highlighted the shenanigans, the cover-ups, and all of the other aspects that are really implicit in terms of Tory posturing in this whole area. Now, we understand, and I've had to talk about it in the European Parliament, the issues about the migrants coming from the Middle East, across the Mediterranean, coming across the borders. I, along with Steve Wolfe, we actually have to address the issues about this migrant, this asylum problem and such. But the big issue is that I believe I understand what's going on out there. I'm not tainted with that nasty party label. And I can actually see through what is happening in terms of EU policy and EU strategy, and I can actually deliver a realistic policy with your help and with UKIP's support. Now, we've got to be absolutely realistic about what's happening out there. Yes, it is nasty. Yes, it is tough. It is unpleasant. But the point is, Theresa May and David Cameron haven't got a grip on it. Now, I want to talk very specifically for a few minutes about the whole issue of justice and home affairs. Now, the control of those areas by the European Union means that the United Kingdom, Great Britain, does not have that control, no matter what the politicians, and particularly Theresa May and David Cameron, might try and tell you. And when I look at the outrage that we've got out there in the country today, I can really, really feel for you, for my parents, for my nephews, for my friends, for people in my social circle, and for other individuals that understand the messages that we have. We just don't understand, do we, why our courts and our politicians no longer have control of justice and home affairs. If, like me, you're absolutely bewildered, when or how or why did Great Britain, United Kingdom, stop having control of those key areas? Because it's been so insidious, everybody, as I hope you will agree, that it's just happened and we haven't actually understood that it had gone ahead. One of my first questions that I'm going to pose to you: why is it that justice cannot be administered by British judges in British courts? Think about that one for a moment. Let me ask some other frequently asked questions. Why, for instance, can't we deport foreign criminals? Why can we not even stop those criminals coming into the country in the first place? Well, the answer is very simple, very simple. If you've got the right papers, no policeman, no border control officer, no immigration officer can stop you coming in if you're a citizen of another member state. Dover is actually no obstacle. You can put up as much barbed wire as you want. You can have as many sniffer dogs as you want. But as I saw coming through Calais last week, nothing is going to stop people coming in if they want to be here. Just think about the crime situation, and we talked a little bit about this at the Fringe meeting yesterday. Even if they're here, they've committed a crime, they go on to commit another crime, they have rights, would you believe? And those rights will be upheld in courts that control the court system here in the United Kingdom. I find it absolutely ironic, and so should you, everybody, that the Supreme Court here in the United Kingdom is actually nothing of the sort. How Orwellian can you be when even on the Supreme Court's website they desperately try and reconcile where the ultimate control is? Now let me spell it out for David Cameron and for Theresa May. Amnesia, confusion, or is it you just don't want to acknowledge fact? Or more importantly, the question I put to all of you this afternoon, or would you rather keep every United Kingdom citizen in the dark as to actually what is happening? Want to know why we can't deport foreign criminals? Want to know why we have to pay the EU criminals to be in our prisons? Want to understand why Chancellor Merkel can lecture us and almost dictate to us what we're going to do in terms of our asylum obligations? And it's because of the European Union membership, it's because of the European Union Convention on Human Rights, and it's because power rests in 3 places in Europe: Brussels, Strasbourg and London. And I wish I could say London. Forget that. Just forget that issue and substitute Luxembourg for London instead. Now, the European Commission's document, the EU Justice Agenda for 2020, Mr. Juncker, Jonathan Arnott's favourite person, talks about an area without internal frontiers. When was the last time you voted to say, I want to give up control of my frontier? I don't believe any of you ever did that, knowingly. Everything that's happening is because it's the European Union is stating they want to do it their way. They are embarking on making sure it happens their way. And that's not our way. It's not the United Kingdom way, and it's not UKIP's way. And of course, the European Union has its own police force. Europol. I doubt very much you've seen them on your doorstep yet. They haven't actually got that little bit of technicality yet. But I can bet your bottom dollar that when they want to actually arrest somebody here in the United Kingdom, they get the British police force to do that for them. And it will only be a matter of time before that situation changes. Now, you can tell an awful lot about a society when it loses trust in its policing system, in its criminal justice system, in its judiciary, its judges, its court system and such. And the trouble with what I deal with in the Parliament is I watch this happening and evolving week by week. Now, this is the destruction of key principles that hold this country together. But they are principles that David Cameron and Theresa May, they don't understand, they won't defend, no amount of renegotiation is ever going to defend them, but they won't be honest with the people like yourselves here and others around the United Kingdom. That is absolutely atrocious. It's dishonesty by our politicians at the biggest level I think could ever happen. David Cameron and Theresa May have clearly swallowed, hook, line and sinker, Jean Monnet's opening words in 1952 when the European Union was being first formulated. And take this sentence with you this weekend. Europe's nations should be led towards a superstate without their people understanding what is happening. We are starting to live, everybody, in a country which, according to the Conservative Party, their own words, is nasty. It's less fair, it's nastier, and things are happening out there which make us all fear for our normal lives, the way we go about our lives, the way we go to work, the way we shop, when we go out of an evening, for instance. And it all comes from being a member state of a political superstate union. David Cameron and Theresa May, I'm going to pose another question for you, and also another issue that I want you to address. The solution is very simple and it's very doable. Don't you think you decide the future of this country. Let the people of this country, via the referendum, tell you what they want, what represents the best for this country, for decades to come, for the future of this country, and not only give us that referendum date eventually, but also when we deliver that tick in the box that says we are going to leave the European Union, make it happen. We can restore this country, everybody. We can be a sovereign nation once again. We can rebuild a society where we can be confident again in our policing system, our prisons, our judiciary, our judges, our court, and all of the processes with that. But it won't happen unless we have Brexit. And as a fan of Tom Cruise, your mission, ladies and gentlemen, is make Brexit happen. Thank you.
You didn't frankly have the balls to put country before party.